Welcome to the Unexceptional Moms podcast. This is episode 18, and we're going to be talking about respite. My name is Ellen Stembo.
And I'm Erin Lorraine, and today we have a guest with us. This is Andrea Roberts. Andrea is the former founder and executive director of Reese's Rainbow. Reese's Rainbow is an international adoption ministry. Are we still calling it ministry? Is it still?
With Grant Foundation, but
Grant
it's a ministry
Foundation.
for me, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And Ellen and I both found our girls through Reese's Rainbow. But Andrea is now stepping away from Reese's Rainbow to focus on a new passion of hers, which is giving mothers respite and eventually fathers, which we will discuss coming. So we are going to talk to Andrea quite a bit about her new passion and her new focus in life. But first, we just want to talk a little bit about respite. What is respite, and what does respite look like for us, and how do you go about getting respite?
Right. And just for everybody who's listening, we do have a freebie this time, and it is respite journaling questions. So I have a list of questions for you to fill out to really take a personal inventory of where you're at in respite, how much you need it, how it would change you, and hopefully it is going to help you kind of see where you stand and how maybe desperately you need to do, to have respite, or if maybe your needs are being met. So that's the freebie, and ellenstumbo.com/episode 18. That's the number 18. Scroll down to the bright orange button, click on it, you get it in your inbox. So, Andrea, thanks so much for being with us so we can talk about this.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to share.
So, what's respite?
What is respite? Wow. It's a break. An alleviation of your perceived burden, an alleviation of your fatigue, stepping away from a situation that is stressing you to the point where you're kind of in a loop and not able to recenter yourself. And it means something different for everyone, how often that you need it, or how often you're going to ask for it, or what it really looks like, and what's real for you, because every family is in a different situation.
And respite can come in so many different forms. And so we actually have a lot of them. We have someone that comes in our home and does respite. And sometimes, actually most of the time, I'm still here. She's an extra set of hands and an extra help. We also send Oksana one weekend a month to a respite center. So sometimes it looks like her going so we can rest. And then sometimes it's us going, which is where your focus is going to be, is actually the parents getting away from the stress of life.
Yeah.
And when we think about respite, you think about kind of getting energized before. And I want to say, Erin, that we talked about the emotional bank account that you either make deposits or you make withdrawals. And when you go and you're in the negative numbers, you can't really function very well. So I think different things become respite for different people. Like some people find respite being able to take a nap, and some people find respite going out on a date with their husband or exercising or anything. But it's finding that time to take a break, to energize.
Yes. And certainly the level of your child's needs are going to impact what respite looks like for you.
Sure.
And something we've talked a lot about on this podcast is guilt. And I think I'm saying this because it's me, and so I know it's other people out there. Guilt stopped me from getting respite so much. And I finally pushed forward and realized that we needed respite when I told my kids, my two typical boys, about a respite opportunity that they had, and one of them cheered. And I realized that this wasn't just about me. And even though I was so reluctant to move forward with that because I felt guilty, he showed me how badly we needed it. And it's been the best thing ever. And I don't just mean for us. Oksana loves her respite opportunity. She has so much fun and looks forward to it every single time. It's been the biggest blessing, but my guilt almost kept that blessing away.
Yeah. I mean, I can speak to that very personally too. I live in Maryland, and there's a place just over the border in Virginia, in the Northern Virginia area, called Jill's House.
Okay.
And a lot of people have heard of it. I think, it continues to grow and grow and grow. It's part of the McLean Bible Church, I think is the name of the church that hosts that. And I've had so many people say to me, Andrea, let Reese go. Just let him go. And I feel guilty because I feel like I'm sending my child away because I can't handle him, or I'm tired of him. And I'm like, just like you said, I mean, I feel now, do I know from a conscious level he's going to have a great time? Yes. Do I know from a conscious level that other families and other moms have like been on this side of it and they're too afraid to? Yes. But somewhere in there, that guilt is still there. Like, I would rather take 2, 3, 4 days by myself away from here than to confess to sending my child away because I need a break from him.
Mm-hmm. It's hard.
So I get that. Mm-hmm.
Which I think part of it, at least for me personally, it stems from the idea that nobody can care for my kids as well as I can. And especially because my kids can be more vulnerable, there's part of me, and because we all know the horror stories out there, there's part of me that always feels like, can I really trust someone else to take care of my kid?
Mm-hmm.
And what if he's miserable? What if he's scared? What if he's, what if?
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is that there are so many places, like Jill's house and even the place that Oksana goes to, that the people are so qualified. And it really becomes like a really fun camp-like experience for the kids.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what it is for Oksana. We call it camp. They do field trips and activities, and she has such a blast. But I think for me, part of it too was I would never send my boys away to respite, right? I mean, I'd send them to grandma's house, but for me, that felt different.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And then I would never do that to them, so why would I do it to her? And it was just really coming to grips with, just like you said, Andrea, we are better people when we have the rest that we need. Mm-hmm. And that's hard to come to grips with sometimes.
Yeah.
And maybe we can make a little, pause just to say that it's not that our kids are so difficult and because it's so hard and they create so many problems, but the reality is that there are extra challenges, and especially as parents, usually we don't have the extra supports that we also need. Our kids need extra supports, and we do too. And oftentimes those supports are really lacking from a parental standpoint. And when I hear special needs parents that the majority of their life experience seems so negative, that's my first clue that something is lacking for their support. Because they're unable to see the positive and they're unable to see the good, and their outlook in life looks pretty gloom and doom. Where what if they had those supports? What if they had that break? What if they had that respite?
For Oksana, we got to a point where she couldn't be cared for by anyone that wasn't professionally trained. Right. And so for a lot of us, we can't hire the girl down the street to come watch our kids so we can go to a movie. We can't just throw anyone into that situation. And so finding a more formal format for respite becomes more important too.
Right.
Like parents of kids that have medically fragile children, that they are, connected to all this machinery, and it's a 24/7 on call.
Right.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
It is a lot. And, I think that there's a lot of, not just guilt, but comparison. Like, I think every mom looks at other families and is like, oh, well, my challenges are not as great as hers. Like, Erin, I follow your story especially, and I'm seeing all this, and I'm like, gosh, that's like really, really hard. But at the end of every day, Reese wears me out in his own way, because he is an escaper. I think you've heard me talk about that. Every door in our house has to be key dead bolted, and he is awake multiple times a night, and So it's basically like, having a toddler for almost 15 years.
Yeah.
Interrupted sleep all the time. And so, yes, he is social. Yes, he is physically mobile and capable, and he can do so many things that a lot of other kids can't do. But at the same time, there just is no break. I have to try to take a nap during the day when he's at school, if he even stays at school the whole day, because he's running into behavioral issues, and it's one thing after another. So, we all are facing just different things, but that impact us, in a different way.
Right.
I love the saying that it takes a village to raise a child. And we live in a culture that's so individual.
Not village?
It's not village. That's right. But I think for a lot of us, when we do have kids with disabilities, it kind of shows that we kind of really do need a village, because, we need sleep, so if you have a child that struggles to sleep and you're not sleeping either, at some point someone's going to break.
Right.
And again, where are those supports? And I think we have all been in situations where we know what our children need, and we contact the people that can provide those needs. And for some reason, they'll say, oh, they don't qualify. And then you deal with services, and you deal with insurance, and you deal with stuff. And you're thinking, take my child for 1 week, and then you tell me if you really don't need it.
That's right.
Then again, I don't know that I would let my child go and stay with those people that are sick.
Right. You can't win. I mean, it feels like there's no winning. And every state is different. Your eligibility for what they consider respite, meaning somebody to come into your house and basically do, home care for whatever those reasons, and for however many hours a week. That depends on the family's income. It depends on the child's diagnosis. It depends
Absolutely.
And so, where one family may be more comfortable financially than another one, that doesn't mean that they've got $1,000 extra to be paying somebody to come in,
exactly,
to help. And it doesn't alleviate. I don't know. I mean, it kind of adds extra stress to have to apply to even be eligible. So, that's kind of. I haven't applied for help with Reese because in comparison to other children who might be medically fragile or, have other serious behavioral problems, he doesn't, I don't know, his needs aren't great enough, and maybe my needs aren't great enough to be eligible in my state. I don't know how many other parents might, just not even bother trying.
Well, and like you said, it goes by, by state, but sometimes it goes by county even, that you have a state where one county somehow, is servicing so many people that they only have so many resources. And then you have a county that's maybe really small, and they don't have a lot of professionals, yet they have a lot of money that they can provide for those people. So unfortunately, it's not the same everywhere. And when people talk about waivers, even something like a waiver, and a lot of waivers provide respite, but I think about the waivers that we've been on, we were on a waiting list for 3 years.
Yeah.
So having to wait years to receive some services is really ridiculous.
It is.
Absolutely.
It is. One of the things that we're going to talk about is how do we address this chronic need for respite, because I think that we can call it a chronic need.
Oh, yeah.
There's never going to be a time parenting where you're not going to need, some extra support.
Right.
Well, and let's just be realistic. If you put guilt aside, all these different things, then it really starts to come down to money. How do you pay for someone to come in your house? You can't pay them $7 an hour like a teenager. How do you pay for, a weekend services are expensive. And so eventually we'll talk about this, Andrea, but I know that one of the things I love about what we were talking about before we started was that you're looking for ways to minimize those costs so that parents can get a break and breathe.
Right.
Money is just a factor in every situation.
It is. And again, the stress of even having to apply.
Yes.
And wonder if you're going to be accepted, or wonder if there's money in the budget, or wonder, for me, I'm like, I'm just going to suffer. I just suffer through it, right? I just suffer through it.
It's not a small feat. It's massive amounts of paperwork and months of waiting only to have them say, oh, I need one more thing.
Right.
And then you start all over again.
You start all over again and on and on and on. And then they say, no, you'd wait. And I don't know about other states, but in Missouri, I mean, you seriously have to practically live in a box to financially qualify for services. So.
But it goes back to things that we have talked about before. And we talked about this when we had the podcast with Jillian, and we talked about mental illness, and we've talked about self-care. I think at some point, as parents, we have to recognize that we matter too.
Yes.
And the reason I say that is because I do think that a lot of times we focus on the finances, which are important because most people don't have extra money. However, if there was a new therapy for our kids, even if we didn't have the money, a lot of us will do whatever it takes to get that money to provide that service just to try. But very, very rarely do we put ourselves first. And I cannot tell you how many parents I know who have really been functioning on the negative, numbers of the emotional bank account in so many ways that they're now dealing with very serious medical issues.
Yeah.
Because eventually those things catch up. And then if you're dealing with serious medical issues, at some point you might not even be able to care for your child. So the very fear that so many of us have of what happens when I'm gone, well, what about if you're not gone, but you can't even care for your kid anymore?
Right.
All that to say, we matter too. And at some point we have to recognize that the most loving thing we can do for our family is to put ourselves first.
Yeah.
Because if we have respite and we have support, I know I'm a better mom. I'm a better wife. Life does not seem like doom and gloom. You see the good things and you see the sunshine and you want to smell the roses, you could say. But if you are constantly so overwhelmed with life, you can't see that.
Right. Right.
You feel so covered. And we matter too. So let's talk about a mother's rest.
Okay.
Andrea, would you start by telling us what is what made you want to do this? Let's start there.
Yeah.
Gosh. Okay. Well, I'm going to try to keep it succinct, but I have a habit of going off on a tangent. So just stop me, bring me back, because for me, everything is like all connected, but then I'm like here, that's the ADD. Okay. So I just apologize for that. Okay. I've been, serving with Reese's Rainbow for 10 years, and I have seen and witnessed the joys of bringing these children into families, but then I have also witnessed the very painful and real and raw challenges that some families face. And I shouldn't even use the word some, I should say most.
Yes.
And I think that for me, I felt that Reese's Rainbow, that myself, just me as the leader there, had a greater responsibility, just a personal obligation to, to support you all when you get, not just to say, oh, here, let me go raise $20,000 for you to save this child's life. And no, you guys have a nice life, because I'm watching your story, Erin. Watching your story, Ellen. I'm, and I may not talk to you guys on Facebook every day, but I'm following all of these families. And when you guys are struggling and your worlds are falling apart and you're wondering, oh my God, what did I do? Why did I do this? And I see that. It's important to me for you as adoptive parents to know that somebody acknowledges that before you go into that process, and that when it's hard, you have some place to go and some place to talk to, and somebody who gets it, even if you don't want to talk about it. You just so a mother's rest. I mean, this is mother's rest has been going on for about 9 months now, since April of last year, when this idea first struck me with my aunt's farmhouse, and then wow, what if we, and then oh my gosh, and what if we, and well, this is, and so it's grown, and this has been going on in my heart for 9 months. And it's been an agonizing decision to have to step away from Reese's Rainbow, but it's an immense responsibility to be able to serve you all. It's also important to me to be able to include biological parents, because that's me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not an adoptive family.
Right.
And I have spent almost 15 years, Reese will be 15 in April, just piling on and withdrawing from that emotional bank account that you all were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm trying to deal with Reese and the daily challenges of him, and then also caring for all my adoptive families, and personally carrying the burden of the lives of all those kids waiting on Reese's Rainbow.
Mm-hmm.
It's just wearing on me.
Mm-hmm.
And I just needed to step away and to be able to serve you guys in a restorative way.
And so you're saying
someplace safe to talk about it, and just be sad and fatigued and depressed and hurting.
And you're saying this, but I want to make sure we point out, a Mother's Rest is not for adoptive families specifically. It is for
everyone.
Families of children with special needs.
Yes.
I want to make sure we specify that so that that wasn't intermixed there.
Mm-hmm.
And so now tell us specifically, what is a Mother's Rest?
So the concept of a Mother's Rest is to build a network of bed and breakfasts, inns across the country, to host 3 to 5 day sessions for moms to go and just get away.
Mm-hmm.
And for the most basic premise of just uninterrupted sleep. I know it might sound simplistic, but sometimes that's really just what you need. And when I was thinking about talking with my family about these plans, and well, gosh, Andrea, couldn't you just go to a hotel for the weekend? Wouldn't that be enough? Well, no, because then it's just me by myself doing nothing. And
right.
So it's not just respite, but it's fellowship with other moms who are also struggling with similar challenges. I recognize that there are a lot of conventions, special needs parent conventions and educational conferences that are one weekend a year, but they're also jam-packed full of sessions and speakers and organized mealtime, and that's not rest. That's not what I'm looking for. That's not what I need. You know what I'm saying? So
it can be energizing, but not restful.
Right.
Energizing is not always the same as restful, at least not for me.
Yes, agreed. Mm-hmm.
So the goal is that there will be possibly more than one bed and breakfast per state eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And then
hopefully soon. I don't think it's going to take a long time. I think we'll be able to build that network pretty quickly. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So then that B&B will have a block of, you said 3 to 5 days, and then the parents in that area can register and come to that block, and they'll be together there.
Through a Mother's Rest, right? So we would basically be, I guess, renting the whole house.
Yes.
The whole inn, just for our event. What I feel like might be a good way to do that is to not just organize people by their local area, but also by their children's needs. So if, families who have adopted disabled children internationally, families who have a biological child with Down syndrome, people have children who've got autism, children who have got heart conditions, or medically fragile, or there's so many different things. I have a very just a keen vision in my mind of a front porch and moms being able to show up for their session and just collapse into each other's arms. You don't have to say anything. I don't need to know your name. I don't need to know where you're from. All I know is that you're here for the same reason that I'm here. You can call it grieving. You can call it depression. You can call it anxiety. I sometimes refer to it as chronic traumatic stress disorder, because it doesn't pass. It's not just from one event or one short time period. It's just every day, every day, so that's like, it's really very simple, and just time away from your normal daily life.
We talked a little bit before we started the podcast about this is the first foundational part of what a mother's rest is. But eventually your goal is to reach into you have other ideas already brewing in your mind of things that you can do. So you talked a little bit about dads.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's important. So what I'd like to be able to do, addressing a mother's rest just because I'm a mother and this is my, whatever. But dads are important too, and they deserve an opportunity to get away, because when mom is stressed out beyond the capacity for rational thought, dad's having to hold all of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And dad still has to get up and go to work in the morning. Not like we're not working at home, but like they have to carry all that. And I don't know how many guys would feel, as comfortable going away for 4 or 5 days with a bunch of guys they don't know. But what's cool about it is that if they have some dad friends already, they can organize one to go together. Mm-hmm. And the benefit of a Mother's Rest being a nonprofit foundation is that the bed and breakfast can donate the value of their room. So it's a nice tax deduction for them. It's a nice thing to do. And then people can donate towards those costs to help with, just foundational expenses, advertising. And, it costs money to run a nonprofit. So, and even if there are no staff salaries involved, there's still just basic expenses to, run things. So you can make donations to sponsor a particular mom. You can organize your own session. You can do dad sessions. We can do mommy and me sessions. We can do, very customizable, whatever
couples.
People are up to. Yeah, couples. So what I'm really looking for is not so much to lead this, but to let the moms and the dads lead this. You come to me and you say, hey, this is where I live. This is my child's diagnosis. What do you think we can work out to organize something? And then I'm on it.
I just want to say something about, you said mommy and me, because when you first said that to me, my thought was me and Anya, me and Oksana. But what you were saying is mom and the typical sibling who also gets a rest. And I love that idea.
Yeah, it's so important. And, just to jump back a little bit to Reese's Rainbow, the family reunions that we have every summer, one of my very favorite things about that is that all the typical siblings come too. So that's a whole family. We have, I had almost 500 people there one summer. It was pretty amazing. And, but I love that the typical siblings of either the adopted children or the disabled children, special needs children, get to make friends, new friends with other kids who also live a similar life, the challenges of life with a special needs sibling. So that is really, really important for those kids, and to make one-on-one time, create one-on-one time for mom and those kids away from, how much time the other child takes.
And I would say that it's pretty common to hear special needs parents talk about that they feel guilt that they don't spend as much time with their typical kids. And there are a few who have older kids who are typical kids that at some point have approached the parents and said, hey, I don't feel that I'm as important to you as my sibling who has a disability. So we do carry that guilt, and sometimes we have that. So what a great opportunity to be able to say, hey, let's go together, just the two of us, to this retreat where you get to do something special and make a memory with your kid.
Right. And it can be completely freestyle. So it's not like a convention where everything, every minute is planned out, mapped out with, sessions and all that stuff. And you don't even have to go to an event that's real close to you. If you want to go someplace that's a couple 100 miles away and just go someplace new, you can do that and explore the local area and just do things on your own. It doesn't even have to be with the people that you're, retreating with. You can just kind of get out and go do your own thing for the afternoon or whatever. So I'm very much a fan of the freestyle and not forcing people onto a schedule. I just want you to come and do what you feel like doing.
My kids call it mandatory fun. They don't like mandatory fun.
Right. That's just do what you feel like doing. And if you don't feel like doing anything, then don't do anything.
Don't do anything.
That's,
one of the best ministry retreats that I ever went to with my husband was actually for pastor or, ministry couples to go, and it's called the Broom Tree Retreats. And that's really what it was. Basically, we went to a place that we slept there, and they made our food, and we could do whatever we wanted to. We could talk to the other ministry couples or not. And maybe for dinner, we sat together at a table, and maybe there was a topic of discussion. But there was nothing structured, and it was real rest. I remember walking out of there feeling like this is the best pastor's retreat I've ever been to. And there was no speaker, and there were no sessions, nothing like that you could say I didn't learn anything, but I kind of learned a lot. I learned that I needed rest.
Yeah, that's right. Pull
away, just to pull away from life. And maybe that's what we need a little bit, just to pull away from life a little bit, to find that rest and to be able to take that, sigh and a big, deep breath, like, okay, I got this, God's got this, and we can keep going and find that little respite.
And the truth is that there's lots of opportunities to go to conferences. There's lots of opportunities to have that mandatory fun, right? This is different, and there isn't a lot of this out there. So I think you're really onto something here.
Yay!
So I'm really excited to see how this develops. So can you tell me now, what if someone wants to learn more about this?
The website is up and running. It's mostly functional, but it's still, every day I'm working on it, and I have done all of it myself. So, I'm kind of like a one-man show at this point. It's been really great to have opportunities like to talk with you guys, even just, all of a sudden for the podcast, and to have be very active on Twitter. But the website is www.amothersrest.org.
Okay.
Yep. So it's very easy to remember. And, I think the website is pretty easy to get through. But if you run into or anything, they're not live. I know they're not live. I'm still working on updating those. And, we have a Facebook group. We have a
I saw that.
page, yep, and the account. So there's lots of ways to reach me. And my new email now, if anybody wants to reach me that way, is innkeeper, INNKEEPER, at amothersrest.org.
Okay. And Ellen can put all of that on her webpage so people can access it very easily.
Yes. Sure. And I would say I shared that page on my Facebook page, and Andrea, you saw the responses from people were like, oh my goodness, this sounds amazing. Like, oh my goodness, I need this so much. So obviously this is something that most of us are looking at saying, I need that. And I think that when you find something where people are saying, I need that, I think it's like you said, that maybe you feel like you have to make it happen, because the need is out there. And obviously that support is not provided anywhere else.
Right.
Or very few people have access to something like that.
Right. So, I mean, that's my goal, is that, so part of it is the one inn that I'm hoping to, purchase and restore in Virginia, but then building this whole network so that people all over the country can go to different places. Doing it as a nonprofit, the hope is that I can minimize or even eliminate the cost to the moms. So I think, we've talked about money and finances before, where you're, applying for grants or applying for services, or applying for respite care, whatever. You don't really have to apply. Like, there'll be an application, but the point is that I want it to be free, and that's not a reason you don't go.
Right. So I can see that you're trying to eliminate all the hurdles, right? Location. Right. You can, if I want to fly to Virginia, I can. And if I can only afford to drive, in Missouri, then I can do that too.
That's right.
You're reducing our financial burden. So really you're trying to make this as accessible as possible to every mom or family who needs it.
Yeah. And the key to it really is, it's different than Reese's Rainbow, because it's serving a domestic purpose.
Yes.
And so I'm hopeful that we'll be eligible for more, corporate grants or even, state grants or whatever for mental health. I hate to use the word mental health, but, it's my sanity, okay? Just my sanity for special needs parents. And when you're proactively taking care of these moms, okay, like let's look long term, trying to keep me as healthy as I can be to care for my child at home longer and not need institutional group home care or aging care. So I mean, it really is an investment. It's just an investment in the best caregivers for this population. Okay, so even one-on-one, wouldn't you rather be the one caring for your child, as much as difficult as it can be sometimes, than having to send them away to group care, whatever. So it's just investing in your own health. Outside of the corporate grants, people can make personal donations. The public can crowdfund basically, or just keep the organization going and funded so that there is no limit for these moms.
And it reminds me of, because I think we've all been in a situation where we've had friends or family say, let me know if you need anything.
Right.
And sometimes we really don't know, but what if those people, all the people that say, let me know if you need anything, donate for me to go on this retreat.
Yeah.
And so that's another cool feature is that I like, is like trying to flip the script here. How many moms do you know? And sorry that my phone keeps, my hand's tired, just like you told me it would be. I had to learn the hard way. That's, that's how it goes with me. So try to flip the script and think about all the moms that go so long without even realizing how much they need that break.
Yes.
And then they end up like me, okay, confessing here to the whole world that I've been in a dark, dark place many times, that I would, not in a normal conversation ever admit to anybody. But it's so important to me to be transparent to the other moms out there that you're not alone, that I've been running a global nonprofit and I'm depressed and fatigued beyond the point of, okay? So I get it. And I only have one. So all of you guys who've got like multiple special needs kids, I don't know how you do it. And I'm sure you hear that 100 times, but how many times are moms actually going to come and ask for respite and say, oh my God, I'm just out of here. I can't handle this anymore. No. What's nice is that your family and your friends and people throughout the special needs community can make donations. They can, and send you a gift card. They can do it proactively and say, hey, guess what, Ellen? We did, and you're going away to, you're going to Colorado Springs for the next 4 days. Think about how awesome that would feel to you to say, we've already organized childcare for you, and we've paid for this for you, and this is where you're going. Get out. Think about that. So,
and how many moms listening are fantasizing that would happen?
I'm telling you that it really can be this way. And if somebody as tired as I am can have the courage, like I'm telling you, 9 months, this has been going on 9 months of agonizing over this and thinking to myself, if I need this bad, I know other moms need it too. And if this is the vision and the ideas that God has given me to serve these orphans for 10 years and now to be able to serve in a different way, then I need to just take one step forward and let the army carry me, so it's important that we all lift each other up and acknowledge how hard it really is.
Yes.
Without people assuming that I don't love my child or don't value my child or don't want my child just because I'm tired. Okay. And I think that's a serious challenge that we have in the whole special needs community, is that we're very focused on pointing out all the things that our child can do and their dignity of life and their purpose and value. And somehow we're not supposed to acknowledge that there's a sacrifice in ensuring they do those things.
Yes.
So, and the phrase that keeps coming to my mind that I've been sharing on social media recently is that, self-care is just as important as self-sacrifice. Okay. You're
like that.
Yeah. It's important. And I don't want moms out there to get to 15 years in like I have and be so buried and overwhelmed that you just can't even get out of bed sometimes.
I feel like the people who listen to this podcast are getting that message loud and clear over the last few podcasts, because our listeners won't know this, Ellen, our podcast with Jillian last week was our most popular podcast by far. Blew everything else out of the water, and it was on mental health. It's prevalent. It's there. The help is needed.
Yeah. And it's important to me, what I want to see, and, I mean, far be it from me to have like big goals or whatever, but, the way I envision a mother's rest is kind of like it's a centralizing resource. So I want to be able to share other respite organizations, other conventions, other family retreats. I'm not trying to corner the market on respite here, because I don't think that this is I guess the angle that I'm going about doing it is unique to what we have now.
Right.
But I want it to be like a centralized, everybody knows when you've got a child with special needs, this is where you come when you need a break. I want new moms, even though they've got support from the Down syndrome groups and other local area support groups, to recognize, what, we acknowledge that this is going to be really hard. And when you're ready, when you need it, we're here.
Because you will.
Yeah, and to be proactive in acknowledging it to those families instead of making them have to go seek it out. And so that's the power of social media, and to use the existing family support groups that are out there to fund and to share a mother's rest and to help us grow it and build it and provide the services and programs that the families actually want and need and are going to use without having to apply for it or wonder if they're going to be eligible.
Yep.
And, I'm thinking right now, because we often talk about that, because the lives that we live, oftentimes those relationships and friendships we have are online, but there's nothing like face to face. And for a lot of people, they really don't know a lot of other, moms or parents in the same situation. So those face to face interactions don't happen very often. And as I think about a mother's rest, that's the first you're going to do. You're going to have that face-to-face interaction, and you're going to go deep fast with those people.
You do.
You have that thing in common.
Right. Because you don't have to explain your whole life.
No.
You're going to step up on the front porch and somebody's going to hand you a glass of wine and say, "Have a seat, sister."
Yeah.
I want it to be that casual.
Yes.
I've known both of you for a long, long time.
6 years,
but this
7
is
years.
the first time that we've ever talked face to face like this.
Yes.
I give you a poke. I would love to give you guys hugs because I feel like I've known you forever.
Right.
And when we get to be together at some Mother's Rest location, it'll be like we just saw each other yesterday.
Yeah.
That's the kind of comfort level and casual feeling and safe place, sanctuary that these places can be, even if it's just for a few days, more than a weekend, but not a whole week.
Right.
To be people who get it, and you don't have to go talk your whole life story. Just, sleep and drink.
Yes.
and naturally, we're going to be sharing stories.
Yes.
Isn't that the reality? That when you find someone that you can say, you too, okay, I'm not the only one. And I think it goes back to not feeling alone.
Yeah. What is it about us special needs moms and our ability to weave poop into every conversation?
I know,
Have you ever noticed that?
It's dinner conversation. Nobody even thinks twice about it. Reese is almost 15 and unfortunately he's just going to be one of those that's going to need, hygiene care probably through his adult life, so there are many days where I just don't want this life. I don't want to have to.
And there's not a lot of people, because you mentioned that, talking about those issues. It's nice when you have someone face to face that lives the same life, but that you can talk about it.
Yes.
With someone in that confidential manner, in a not confidential, but someone that understands that there's no judgment, that they get it,
right,
and that you don't feel like you're necessarily putting your child's privacy or life
Right.
for everybody, on display for everybody, but there is a time and place where we all need to be able to have the person that we can talk to about those things.
Yep. And I think what's going to be really neat, and I can see this many years down the road, is that we're going to begin having these sessions this year, and people are going to meet and make like instant connections, and they're going to say, hey, let's organize another one for 6 months from now, and we'll all go together because we've made new friends now and we want to have fellowship together. And so you're just building relationships that way. And another thing that's really important that I want to make sure to get across to your listeners is that we talk about the mental health and fatigue and all these kinds of things, and it can sound like we're whining or complaining or looking for pity, but that's not. No, I just want to be acknowledged, and I want somebody to know that I cherish my child.
Yes,
I love him, and I give 1,000,000,000% of myself to the point where there's nothing left, and that's not helping him. And that's not helping my other son or my husband or the rest of my family.
Or you.
So, or, right. So,
anybody.
Right.
I am excited to see where this goes because I think it's going to go fast, Andrea.
I do. I think it's going to take off, and I'm not going to be ready. So I need this army of volunteers and helpers to help me design these programs and implement, because I can't do it all myself.
Brace yourself.
I know.
Here it comes. You're going to have
I'm tired now, right?
Yeah. I think you're going to have a lot of people ready to sign up and say, okay, sign me up. Where do I go?
Good. Well, I'll be ready.
All right. Okay. So the freebie.
The freebie is the respite journaling question. So it's like a self-exploration of where you're at and what you need, maybe even why you need it. So that's the freebie. ellenstumble.com/episode 18, the number 18, and it's the bright orange button.
And then all the information about A Mother's Rest will be on the website. Yep,
it's going to be right there.
And so you can contact Andrea and
learn more about it. I'll have and if you have an iTunes account, leave us a review. Let us know that we're your favorite.
Pretty soon Ellen's going to start pouting if people don't leave her reviews. I'm serious. But Andrea, I need to tell everyone that you agreed to do this at 4:00 this afternoon.
It was very short notice, yes.
Very short notice, and you are recovering from a head cold.
I am, yes.
You are our favorite person right now. Thank you so much.
You know what? You're a good reason to wash my hair and put my face on, okay? Because otherwise I'd have gone 4 days with no shower. So yay you.
I said it doesn't matter because you can't see sometimes, but we wear pajama pants here.
I've got in my pajama pants, yep. Top only.
From the waist up.
The waist up. That's all that's important.
For the video part of the podcast.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Andrea.
Thank you so much. It's been great to see you guys, and we'll talk again real soon, okay?
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.